Hello, this is Dorie with Forever Quilting. I'm getting prepared to quilt another top, and this is going to be custom quilted. So I thought I would share with you what my quilting path is going to be for this top. Now, in order to plan out the path, I like to use the clear plastic and lay it over my top and draw on it with a dry erase marker. This way I can change my design as many times as I need to until I figure it out, and then my design is saved on my plastic while I'm quilting. Now this top has got one block in it repeated throughout the whole top. So really I only have to decide what quilting is going to go in this space, in this block, and then have that design be able to transfer over to the next block. So I have to have it be continuous from one block to the next. So not only do I have to figure out the design in this block, but how to make it continuous and connect to the next block over. A couple considerations I have to make is, do I want to use one color thread or two colors of thread, since we have a dark area and we have a light area? I prefer to have all my stitching connected, so I want to use just one color of thread. I prefer that color to match more in my background than I would in the darker fabrics, because I really don't want a darker thread on my lighter fabrics. That would not look right. So I will pick a color thread that is close to the background color, or maybe on the dark side. That way it will kind of blend in with these lighter colors in the darker fabrics. Because I'm going to quilt both the same thread color in both sections, I'm thinking to keep this area here with minimal quilting. That way there's not a lot of thread in this area. So the first thing I thought of was to do some straight lines. And again, I want to pivot from my intersections. So I might just do a straight line going up here. All right, let's see if we can find a pin that's working. There we go. All right, so we're going to go from here down to here. So we're going to hit these two intersections, but come about a 1/4 inch from each side up here. Then I'll be able to go back with another one, and that makes it continuous because I'm getting back to where I started. While I'm at this intersection, I can also pivot up here and do the same thing. So that is my plan for all of the areas that have the colored fabric. Now I don't want to do a straight line design in the background area, so I had to come up with something different. I thought of many different things, just like filler, just a loose filler in here, but we've got some kind of odd shapes. So I really wanted to do some type of a feather, because this is a traditional style of quilt. So what I came up with was to do a feather coming off of one side. So probably be stitching in the ditch along this line and putting in my feather. So I will do that on all 4 of these. So basically this block is repeated 4 times in the larger block. It's just twisted. So I'll do that in each section. And then of course have my lines going up and down here and up and down there. So I'm pivoting from this intersection, and from this intersection I can do my feathers and come back down that ditch. So that makes that all continuous. Another thing it does is, since I'm stitching on this line and doing my feather, right here is where I'm going to connect to this next block. So I'll be able to travel through that intersection with this design. Now the next thing to consider is our triangles. So when I start this quilt, of course, I will stitch in the ditch around the border. I will also stitch in the ditch around the block, not necessarily inside of each block, but at least around the outer edge where the triangles are. Then I need to come up with some kind of design here. Of course, I could come up with some big feather to put in there, would be very traditional also. And I'm trying to keep this design more on the simple side versus a really complex design. So what I'm going to do is come up with a design, and it'll start by creating just a 1/4 inch inside here, And then I was using my 2-inch horizontal grid stencil, and when I laid that in there, I noticed that if I go all the way up to the corner, it doesn't exactly fit. So I can either come all the way to there, or I can come down one row, center it, and then have another line here. Of course, these are not proportionate. I'm just sketching this, so when I actually go to quilt it, I'll be more accurate with my lines. And then I can put a grid design in here. But that doesn't really leave me much room. And of course, this is a little bit wider than what it looks. It doesn't really separate by having just one line here. It might not separate these two designs enough. So I might need to come in and put a second line here, which will mimic the 2 lines that I have here. Then in between, I'll need a design. And then I need to come up with something for the grid. Now, another section in here that I've got a problem with is this space right here, which I'm thinking of repeating this by putting in a design like that. And then whatever I fill in here, I'm going to fill in here. Now, another consideration is the border. So I'm going to scoot over here just a little bit and show you this border. So this border here's got these little triangles, and it's also got the squares in the middle that are darker fabric. And so I'm going to repeat this feather going along the outer edge on both sides. And then in the square, I want to repeat the same design I do in this grid over here. So, and I also liked how these little spikes were straight lines and kind of came in a fourth. So I'm thinking of coming, let's do this one's a little lighter, coming in about a fourth and going like this. And since I repeated these twice, I'm going to repeat these twice. Now, as I start quilting, if I feel like this has got too much open space in here, I can also add a design in here. So that's kind of the rough plan. Now, if we go back over here to this grid, and if I repeat this design, I could come in here and put this same grid design going across. And I think that would be really cool texture right there. Of course, when we're done, the grid would go away and you would just see all the quilting. I'm not actually quilting on the lines of this grid. I'm just using the grid for my placement. All right, so in this area here, I could do a couple things. I can either just do some little petal shapes going around, or if it's wide enough, I could do some ribbon candy. Both of these designs only go in one direction. So it's not like I'm going to go one way and then have to come all the way back. Now, if I want to repeat that in here, let's just go ahead and put the ribbon candy in here. Something like that. Of course, this side, I can also put in this feather. So I'll be stitching on that line to come back. All of these will have feathers in it. On this area here, we've got several passes going back and forth. So thinking about how to make this continuous. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but these are just my thought process as I'm trying to come up with a design. So if I start, let's say I go all the way across the quilt doing these ditching lines. Then I come back through the middle from the other end and I stitch down the ditch. Then I can do my spikes here, but I don't want to come back yet. I'm going to come over here and do the spikes and work my way around the block and then come back out with the petals and go to the next block. in this section here, once I'm at this point with this, either the feather line or the ditch line, I think I would rather come over and do this line first, do the ditch. Of course, this ditch will already be quilted. I can come down here and do this one. And at this point, I can work in my ribbon candy and then come back and do the ditch. Now, the reason I'm not going to do the ditch first is because I have to have this line in before I can do the ribbon candy. You've got to have both sides in there. So then I can come back down the ditch and keep going. I think that's it. I think everything is connected. I'll have to see, like in here, how many times I go back and forth to get this. I'm going to have to pre-mark these areas in the triangle. And I think that's the only pre-marking I'll have to do. My outer border is about 4 inches, and I'll probably just put some type of a feather in there so that I repeat this design in the outer border. All right, that's the plan. I'm going to get this thing loaded and I'll let you see a little bit of the quilting.
So I've decided to do just like an 1/8 of an inch stitch beyond this line, and it's mainly because this corner piece is going to be really skinny here, whereas the other side is going to be a lot wider. So I don't want to make this a 1/4 inch echo line. So I think I'm going to get it closer to an 1/8 of an inch, and I'm just using both rulers lined up together so that I can see that I've got this ruler angled at the right direction and that my spacing is equal going all the way down here. The piecing might be off just a little bit too, so I've also got to make sure that my line on this side is as straight as we can get it. I'm going to try it right around in there. wait to do the rest of the filler when I get around to the other side. I'm not going to come around to this space again. I mean, technically I will when I do the feather, but since I'm doing the ruler work right now, I'm going to go ahead and add in the grid design inside of this corner. So I'm just eyeballing this and using my ruler to try to get the spacing on both sides as equal as I can. So I'm lining up my ruler on the intersection. That'll get me about a 1/4 inch away from the intersection. If I wanted to be super accurate on the other side, I could switch my ruler around and do the ruler on the other side too. So something like this. I could switch hands, do whatever's comfortable for you. Now this time our grid is going in this direction across. So in order to do it continuously, I need to stop at each row as I come down here and do each of these rows going this way. So I have to do a little bit of ruler work this way and then drive that direction. And that'll make it all continuous where I don't have to come back and cut my thread again. I made it back around to this side of the border, and I'm ready to go into the block and start quilting the designs in here. So I had one start and stop doing the ditch here and the feather, and then I had one other start and stop doing the ditch, the feather, all of the triangle blocks going all the way to the other side of the quilt, and then back around to here. Now I need to advance my quilt a little bit so that I can get this block in my workspace. And when I do that, I'll go ahead and pin the sides so that I don't have to break my thread. And then I'll start quilting inside the block. And I'm probably going to run out of bobbin thread pretty quickly, so when I do, I will come back over to the side and baste the side down where I've got it pinned. But for now, I'm just going to keep quilting until I run out of bobbin thread. That way I only have the one start and stop within this area.